This is Overtake for the Sharp X68000. It's a racing game. Overtake was released in 1992 for the Sharp X68000 Japanese home computer system. This game was developed by Zoom and was the last game for the X68000 released by the company. The most well-known game outside of Japan that Zoom worked on was probably Phalanx for the SNES, which AVGN talked about in a video about bad box art, but the game was actually a port of the X68000 original. Wonder what inspired this design. Zoom also worked on a Rurouni Kenshin game on the PS1 and the Genocide series of games, which I definitely want to talk about later on because it's really cool. Man, this box is way bigger than I expected. For comparison, here's the box next to a Laserdisc case and a VHS. Anyways, inside the case you'll get the game on 6 floppy disks, and what has to be the best manual I've ever seen. Come on, what other game manual will tell you how to qualify and about gear ratios? There's also a manga in the back of the manual featuring Zoom's adorable mascot Neko. This is awesome, and I can only assume that all other Japanese game manuals also have their own manga. If you want to play X68000 games, you're probably going to want to use an emulator. The actual system is prohibitively expensive, especially if you don't live in Japan, and personally I'd rather make car payments. Hey cat. Now, I've never tried to emulate an X68000 game, but it's probably not too hard, so let's try it out. To get the game up and running on the PX68K RetroArt core, bring up the system menu and insert the system disk into floppy drive 0 and data disk A into drive 1. Once it prompts for the second disk, replace the system disk in drive 0 with data disk B. Exit that menu and you should be at the main menu of Overtake. From here, you should go to the config and set the sound mode to F, unless you just really like to hear loud compressed engine noise samples all game. To get a feel for the controls, I'm going to load up a quick race. Overtake is pretty straightforward as far as controls go. One button accelerates, and up and down on the D-pad changes gears. This is actually really annoying, as you have to rock the D-pad up and down while turning to change gears. The game also supports analog controls, but for the life of me, I could not get the emulator to recognize my PS4's analog sticks. Digital controls also kinda suck for turning, since you're either turning as far as you possibly can or not at all. If you have a working analog setup, definitely use that. The World Championship is the most important mode in the game. You can select from a number of real, actual Formula 1 drivers from the early 90s, and they have never looked better. When I tried out the World Championship mode, I got my ass kicked on the first race. After some adjustment, I actually started having quite a bit of fun, for a little bit at least. I was pretty surprised by the number of maps you have to race on. I kind of expected maybe a few, but no, there's a lot. I played World Championship mode as long as my attention span allowed, which ended up being to round 12. I had some good moments, like this tunnel here. I really like this tunnel. I don't know why, I just think it looks cool. As I kept playing World Championship mode, there wasn't really any indication that there was any kind of end to this game mode. I'm sure even if there was an end to this game mode, it probably wouldn't be worth the really repetitive gameplay. So that was Overtake. Not a whole lot else to say about it. It's a pretty unexceptional racing game from the time. It's really similar to other games like Super Monaco GP or maybe a little bit of Outrun. So why did I make a video about it then? Well, it actually is quite an exceptional game. But not because of the graphics or the gameplay, no. It's the soundtrack. The soundtrack to Overtake is the most hypest shit ever. Whoever composed the soundtrack to this game deserves to be put up there with the greats in video game composing. It is legendary.